So I've been in touch with Richard Dawkins, who's probably the world's most famous living atheist, and he's like the avatar of the enlightenment mind. He's the last standing avatar of the enlightenment mind. That's a good way of thinking about it. And a formidable uh, intellect, and someone I actually like. I've met Richard a couple of times, and he's an ornery bastard, and he's tough as a boot, and you don't mess with him lightly, and he's disagreeable enough to cut you into pieces like Englishmen can at the drop of a hat. But, I think fundamentally he's a genuine scientist, and that's a difficult thing to be, and you have to be a dedicated pursuer of the truth to be a scientist, and there's a certain moral element to that, a profound moral element to that. And I tried to get Dawkins to talk to me a number of times, and he put me off, in various ways for a while. But then one day he wrote me and he said, "Oh, I don't know what the hell. I can never understand what you're talking about, Peterson, but I don't know why you want to talk to me, and I don't think I'd have the patience for it anyways. But I kind of think maybe you're interested in this." And so he sent me a paper, and I thought, you son of a bitch, you know exactly why I want to talk to you. And so it was a paper I actually knew about from about 30 years previously, and he made a very interesting claim in that paper. He said that every biological organism is a microcosm of its environment by necessity, like a model, like a low-resolution representation of its environment. And here's what he meant by that. So he said, imagine you were an alien. Scientists like to imagine such things. They don't believe in angels or demons, but aliens, man, those things are there for sure. Anyways, he said, imagine you gave an alien scientist a bird, a dead bird, and he said, what could this scientist conclude about, what could the alien, who'd never seen the earth, let's say, conclude about the earth from analyzing the bird? And the answer is, well, a tremendous amount, because you could calculate the density of the atmosphere from its wings, and if you analyzed its blood properly, you would know the composition of the atmosphere, and you'd be able to calculate the gravitational pull of the earth and its approximate mass, and you'd, by analyzing its DNA at a deep enough level, you could reconstruct a lot of the tree of life that characterizes Earth itself. I mean, a bird is a densely packed microcosm of its environment. And I thought, well, I don't know if you know this, Dr. Dawkins, but there was a medieval conceit among Christians hundreds of years ago that the human soul was a microcosm, right? And which was a reflection of the cosmic order. And your proposition as an evolutionary biologist is that you can't adapt to an environment that you're not a microcosmic replica of. That's exactly the same claim that the Christians made, like in the medieval period. We're a microcosm. Our soul reflects the cosmic order. You might say, well, what the hell does that mean, Dr. Peterson? It means that if you're not in tune with the structure of reality at all of the levels at which it manifests itself, then you die. That's what it means. And so I found that extraordinarily interesting, especially because it has another implication, which is that if we are a microcosm of the cosmos itself, and we're a personality, then maybe the deepest way that we can conceptualize our relationship to being and becoming itself is as a covenant, as a relationship, as an understanding between beings, rather than as an alienated consciousness inhabiting a cold and dead material world. And so I was interested in that partly because there's an insistence in the Old Testament stories that we're in relationship with being and becoming. And, and Tammy made reference to that in relationship, let's say, to prayer. And it's easy to be cynical about such things, especially if you're a Luciferian intellect. But I would say that the thought that rationalists worship is secularized prayer, historically speaking. And so why would I say that? Well, you follow along. You tell me if you think that this is incorrect. I can't see a flaw in it. As a scientist, I might ask myself, well, what what do I do when I'm generating a scientific hypothesis? Now, this is a very interesting question because scientists never discuss how they generate their hypotheses. They write down their experimental results and their methods, and they just take the hypothesis part for granted. Or maybe they make up some story about how they were driven to their hypothesis by rational means, and that's just not true. That's not how it works at all. I had a great student at Harvard, Shelley Carson. Shelley was creative and intuitive, and she'd come up with a bright idea. And you can't just write your damn bright idea down in a scientific paper. You have to tell people how you came to it logically. So then she'd have to invent a story about how she came to her intuitive idea logically, and that was the introduction to her scientific paper. And scientists do that all the time. Every single scientific paper is like that. Where do your hypotheses come from? Your research question. What grips your interest? What compels you and calls you forward? And how does that make itself manifest? Zero instruction in that in the scientific realm. Okay, so let's take that apart a bit. Well, the first thing that you need if you're a scientist is a problem. It has to be a real problem. It has to be something. And how do you know if it's a real problem? How do you know if you have a real problem? It won't let you go. Well, that's a funny way of thinking about it. It's like, what won't let you go? You? Well, what do you mean you won't let you go? This is your conscience, let's say. It's you that won't let you go. Well, if you can't let yourself go, if you can't escape from a problem that besets you, what makes you think for a moment that it's you that's besetting you with the problem? And you know this perfectly well. You know this perfectly well because many times in your life, if you had the chance of just saying to yourself, you should let that problem go, you would. But you can't. You can't, for example, when your conscience calls you out, or if you do, you damage yourself by lying that deeply. And it's the same if something calls to you, not so much besets you, but grips your interest, which is something that happens to scientists all the time. They're insanely called forward by some phenomena, some set of phenomena. Phenomena means to shine forth. They're called forward by what shines forth to them. And so you need that calling in conscience to specify your problem. And so you do that in relationship to what besets you and interests you. And there's an autonomy in that. You know this too. You can't decide what you're interested in. This is so weird. This is part of what got me interested in psychoanalytics thought so many years ago, because Freud and Jung both said that there's an autonomy of spirit operating within you. They put it in the unconscious. You're motivated by things that aren't under your voluntary control. They have an autonomy. They call to you. They plague you. You can't control it. What the hell is that? So you need to have a problem, and maybe it's a problem because you're fascinated by something. You're locked onto it by a force that's beyond your control, or you're plagued by it. Your conscience screams at you have to do something about the cancer of children, for example, because someone needs to, because the suffering is wrong. That's a moral claim, by the way, not a scientific claim. From the purely scientific perspective, the cancer cell has just as much right to live as you do. You start your investigation with an a priori set of moral claims, all sorts of moral claims. The claim that the truth is at hand if you approach the problem properly. The claim that the truth is comprehensible. You have to believe that to be a scientist. The claim that your pursuit of the comprehensible truth will make the world a better place. That's an axiom of faith. Are we so sure that our technology has made the world a better place? Well, maybe we are now, but if we wiped ourselves out with hydrogen bombs, we might rethink that hypothesis.